AITA for ignoring my ex-wife's tearful calls after she spent years calling me worthless? The first time she told me this was on our honeymoon. We were at a resort in Cancun, an all-inclusive deal I found because I had just paid for the wedding with my savings of 3 years. She was looking out the window toward the ocean while I was unpacking the suitcases. "You were lucky to find me," she said without turning around. "Without me, you would probably still be living in that tiny apartment eating takeout from a box every night." I was 25 years old. I was in love. I thought it was a joke. It was not. My name is Ethan. I am 37 years old now. But to understand how I got here, I need to tell you how it all started. I met Chloe 11 years ago at a cousin's birthday party. She was 24 years old. She had just finished her degree in business administration and was working in the human resources department of a large firm in downtown Chicago. I was 26. I worked as an IT technician for a telecommunications company out in the suburbs near Naperville and lived alone in a small apartment in the Logan Square neighborhood. She was beautiful, self-confident, with a way of speaking that made you feel lucky to have her attention. That night we talked for hours. I thought she was the most interesting woman I had ever met. We started dating a week later. From the beginning, Chloe made it clear that she was the one holding the reins of the relationship. She decided which restaurants we went to, what movies we watched, which friends we spent time with. I thought it was because she had a strong personality. Now I understand it was because she saw me as someone inferior who needed to be guided. We got married after 2 years of dating. I paid for everything: the dress, the venue, the food, the honeymoon. My parents helped with what they could, but most of it came out of my pocket. Chloe said her parents could not contribute due to financial problems. Later I found out they could, they just did not want to. The wedding was nice, nothing spectacular, but meaningful. 120 guests at a garden venue in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, with farm-to-table catering and music by a local band. Chloe complained that it was not elegant enough for her standards, but accepted it because it was what we could afford with my salary. That was the first sign I ignored. The first few months of marriage were a constant lesson in humility. Chloe had a habit of comparing me to everything. To her coworkers who earned more, to her friends' husbands who had better cars, to her ex-boyfriends who, according to her, were more ambitious. Every comparison ended with the same conclusion. I was not measuring up. My ex-boyfriend, Brad, is already a department director. She told me one night while we were having dinner. "And you are still a technician? When are you going to grow professionally?" "I am studying for a certification," I replied. "That is going to open doors for me. You have been saying that since I met you. Without me pushing you, you would not do anything." There it was again. Without me. The funny thing is that I was actually doing things. I worked full shifts and came home to study. On weekends, I took online courses, all to improve our financial situation, but nothing was ever enough for her. A year after we got married, I got a promotion. They promoted me to systems coordinator with a 30% raise. I came home excited, hoping she would finally acknowledge my effort. "Coordinator," she repeated with a half smile. "Is that it?" My friend Megan says her husband was just named regional manager. Coordinator is basically the same thing you were doing before with a prettier title. That night, I slept on the couch, not because she kicked me out, but because I needed space to process what I was feeling. It was not anger, exactly. It was something deeper. The feeling that no matter what I did, it was never going to be enough. The following years were a repetition of the same pattern. I worked, saved, improved. She criticized, compared, belittled. When I bought a new car, a Nissan Sentra that cost me 2 years of savings, she complained that it was not the brand she wanted. "My friends have husbands who drive BMWs," she told me, looking at the car with contempt. "And you bring me a Nissan?" When we moved to a larger apartment in Lincoln Park, with 2 bedrooms and a decent view of the city, she said the building did not have enough status. "The lobby looks like a cheap motel. What are my friends going to think when they come over?" When I was offered a better position in Denver with a 40% raise, she forbade me from accepting it because she did not want to move away from her friends. Besides, she added with that condescending smile I knew so well, "Who is going to hire you there? You do not know anyone. Without my connections here, you are nothing. Without me, you are nothing." The phrase appeared more and more frequently. It had become her favorite weapon, her way of keeping me in my place. When we argued about money, "You should be thankful I stayed with you. Any other woman would have already left you for someone with more ambition. When I suggested more modest vacations, maybe a weekend in the Indiana dunes instead of a week in the Caribbean, see, this is why we are never going to progress. You think small. You always have. Without me pushing you, you would still be eating takeout in that apartment in Logan Square. When I asked for recognition for my achievements, for the promotions I got, the certifications I obtained, achievements, you have been working in the same field for years. The only thing you have achieved is not getting fired. Congratulations, I guess. The humiliations were not always private. Sometimes she did it in front of others. I remember a dinner with her parents where she laughed as she told the story of how I had tried to fix a leak in the bathroom and ended up causing water damage in the downstairs neighbor's kitchen. It's just that Ethan does not know how to do anything with his hands, she said while everyone laughed. That is why he has to pay others to solve everything for him. Good thing he earns a decent living, because if he had to survive any other way, her dad laughed. Her mom nodded. I stayed quiet, smiling on the outside while inside something broke a little more. Another time, at a friend's birthday party, she introduced me to some acquaintances as my husband, the IT guy. No, not my husband who works in tech. My husband, the IT guy, she specified, as if it were something to be ashamed of. I am not a technician anymore. I corrected her discreetly. I am a coordinator. She laughed. Technician, coordinator, it is the same thing. It is not like you are the director of anything. Every word was another brick in the wall she was building around my self-esteem. And I stupidly kept trying to prove to her that I was worth something. I kept seeking her approval like a dog seeking pets from a master who only knows how to be harsh. In the 5th year of marriage, I earned a high-level cybersecurity certification that took me 2 years of night study. That certification opened the doors to an infrastructure manager position at a multinational company with offices in River North. My salary almost doubled. I came home with the news, sure that this time there would be no way to minimize the achievement. That's good, she said without looking up from her cell phone. It was about time you did something useful. We have been living below what I deserved for years. What she deserved. Not what we deserved, what she deserved. That night, something changed inside me. I do not know if it was the accumulation of years of contempt or simply the moment when I finally saw things clearly, but for the first time, I asked myself if she was right. Was I really nothing without her, or was she the one who was nothing without me? The 6th year was when I started to wake up. It was not a dramatic moment or an instant revelation. It was a slow process, like when your eyes adjust to the dark and you start seeing shapes you could not distinguish before. I started noticing things I previously ignored. I noticed that Chloe had not worked for 2 years. She had quit her job, saying she needed time to find herself. That time had turned into mornings at spin class, afternoons having coffee with friends, and nights watching series on the couch, all paid for with my salary. I noticed that our accounts were in the red at the end of every month, even though I was making more money than ever. Her credit card accumulated debts that I ended up paying. Her basic needs included designer clothes, spa treatments, and dinners at restaurants that cost what I spent on groceries for a week. I noticed that her friends, the ones who supposedly had such successful husbands, actually envied our situation. One of them, after a few too many drinks at a dinner, confessed to me that Chloe always bragged about how well I treated her and everything I bought her. You are the perfect husband, that friend told me. She does not know how lucky she is. That phrase stayed with me for weeks. A perfect husband, how lucky she is. If I was so perfect and she was so lucky, why did I feel like trash every time I came home? One Sunday in March, while she slept until noon, as always, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and started doing the math, not just about money, but about everything. In 8 years of marriage, I had paid for 2 apartments, 3 cars, countless vacations, all the clothes in her closet, beauty treatments, gym memberships, dinners, gifts, surprises, everything, absolutely everything. And what had I received in return? Criticism, comparisons, humiliations, the constant reminder that without her, I was nothing. That day, I made a decision that would change my life forever. I was going to test if it was true. The next 3 months were the most strategic of my life. I did not say anything to Chloe. I kept acting normal, coming home from work, listening to her complaints, paying for her whims, but on the inside, I was preparing my exit. First, I contacted a family law attorney, explained my situation, and he advised me on how to protect my assets in case of a divorce. I discovered that since she did not work and had not contributed financially in years, the split would be relatively straightforward if I documented everything correctly. Second, I started looking for opportunities outside of Chicago. My new certification opened doors for me anywhere in the country. I applied for positions in Denver, Seattle, and even Austin. Third, I began to separate my finances discreetly. I opened a new account at a different bank. I redirected part of my salary. There, I started building an emergency fund that she did not know about. In May, I received an offer I could not refuse. A tech company in Austin, Texas, was looking for an infrastructure director for their national operations. The salary was triple what I was making, with full benefits, a generous relocation package, and stock options. It was my ticket out. I accepted the offer without telling Chloe anything. I signed the contract, coordinated the moving details, and prepared all the necessary paperwork. The final day arrived on a Friday in June. I got home earlier than usual. Chloe was on the couch as always, watching something on her tablet. "Why are you home so early?" she asked without looking up. I sat across from her and placed an envelope on the coffee table. "What is that?" she finally asked, looking at the envelope. "Divorce papers." The silence that followed was absolute. I watched as her face went from confusion to shock, from shock to disbelief, from disbelief to laughter. "Is this a joke?" she said, laughing. "You asking me for a divorce?" "It is not a joke. I already signed my part. I just need your signature." She stopped laughing. "Are you crazy? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? Without me, you are nothing, Ethan. Literally nothing." There it was, the phrase I had heard for 8 years. "Let's find out," I replied calmly. "Find out what? If it is true, if I am really nothing without you." She got up from the couch, now visibly upset. "You can't do this to me after everything I have put up with from you." "Everything you have put up with," I repeated. "What exactly have you put up with? Me paying for everything so you can live a life of leisure? Me treating you with respect while you humiliate me?" She said, "I gave you the best years of my life." I did not respond immediately. "No, you took the best years of my life. There is a huge difference." Chloe started to cry. The tears came fast, as if she had practiced. "Please, do not do this. We can go to therapy. I can change. Just give me another chance." I stood up and walked toward the apartment door. "You had 8 years of chances. You spent them all telling me I am worthless." "Ethan, wait." I did not wait. I walked out of the apartment with a suitcase I had packed that morning and never looked back. 3 days later, I was in Austin, Texas. The company had coordinated everything: a temporary apartment, a bank account, a new phone. In less than a week, I had a completely new life in a city where no one knew my history. Chloe tried to contact me immediately. Calls, messages, emails, each one more desperate than the last. "Ethan, this is ridiculous. Come home. You cannot abandon me like this. After everything we have been through, what am I going to do without you? I do not have a job. I do not have money." That last sentence made me smile bitterly. She finally admitted what I always knew. She needed me, not the other way around. I did not answer any messages. I did not pick up any calls. I just disappeared. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. She tried to fight for more than her fair share, but my lawyer had everything documented. I had paid for absolutely everything for 8 years, while she contributed nothing. The judge ruled in my favor on almost everything. She kept some furniture and a small portion of the savings. I kept my freedom. 8 years hearing that I was nothing without her. 3 days to prove that it was exactly the opposite. The first few months in Austin were about rebuilding, not just my external life, but my internal one. 8 years of hearing that I was worthless had left marks that did not disappear overnight. I started seeing a therapist. At first, I felt ridiculous. A 35-year-old man talking about his feelings with a stranger, but little by little I understood how important it was to process everything I had been through. "What you are describing is emotional abuse," the therapist told me in our 3rd session. "The constant erosion of self-esteem, the comparisons, the minimizing of your achievements. All of that has a name, and it has consequences." "Abuse," I repeated. She never laid a hand on me. "Abuse is not always physical. Sometimes words leave deeper scars than any injury." That conversation was a turning point. For the first time, I could see my marriage for what it really was: a relationship where I gave everything and received contempt in return. Work became my anchor. The company valued me in a way Chloe never had. My ideas were heard, my achievements recognized, my experience respected. Within 6 months, I had already led 2 major projects that saved the company millions of dollars. I also started building a social life. I joined a hiking group that met every weekend. I made friends who knew nothing about my past, who only knew me as Ethan, the guy who worked in tech and made the best barbecue brisket in the city at get-togethers. A year after the divorce, I met someone. Her name was Sarah. She was an American of Puerto Rican descent. She worked as an immigration lawyer and had her own fully established life. Her house, her car, her savings, her career. She did not need anyone to support her. Our first date was at a coffee shop near her office. We talked for 3 hours about everything and nothing. When I briefly told her about my divorce, she nodded without judging. "We all have pasts," she said. "What matters is who you are now." Who am I now? For so long, it was about who I was with her. Now it was just about who I am. Sarah and I started dating. It was different from anything I had ever known. She paid her share at dinners. She insisted on splitting expenses when we traveled together. She asked for my opinion on important decisions. She treated me as an equal, not a subordinate. One day, while we were cooking together in my apartment, I told her something I had been thinking about for months. My ex-wife constantly told me that without her I was nothing. Sarah stopped chopping vegetables and looked right at me. "And you believed her for a long time?" "Yes." "And now?" I looked around my apartment. It was modest, but mine. I had a job I was passionate about, friends who valued me, a woman who saw me as a partner and not a provider. Now I know it was a lie. The only one who was nothing without me was her. Sarah smiled and went back to her vegetables. "I'm glad you figured that out." Meanwhile, back in Chicago, Chloe was discovering exactly the same thing. I found out everything through my sister, who kept in casual contact with some mutual acquaintances. Apparently, reality hit hard and fast after my departure. Without my salary paying the rent, which was $2,500 a month, Chloe could not even cover the first month on her own. She tried to get a loan, but her credit history was tied to mine, and without my income, she was not approved for anything. Within 3 months, she lost the apartment. She had to move back in with her parents in Evanston at age 32, into the same bedroom where she grew up, with the same furniture from when she was a teenager. Without my salary paying her credit cards, which totaled over $15,000 in accumulated debt, the banks started calling daily. First, they were polite reminder calls. Then came legal threats. Then debt collectors showed up in person knocking on her parents' door. The stores cut off her credit. Her name appeared on reports from the credit agencies as delinquent, and her credit score was destroyed for years. Without my salary paying for her lifestyle, the gyms, the spas, the dinners, the clothes, she had to look for a job for the first time in 5 years. But the job market had not waited for her. Her skills were rusty, the software she knew was already obsolete, and her resume had a half-decade gap that no recruiter looked upon favorably. After 3 months of searching unsuccessfully, she finally landed a job as an administrative assistant at a small accounting firm. The salary was $35,000 a year, less than half of what I made when we first met. After taxes and the minimum payments on her debts, she barely had a few $100s left for the month. Her parents charged her $400 for rent, so she was living on almost nothing for everything else. The friends she bragged about so much, the ones who supposedly had such successful husbands, quickly distanced themselves. There were no more dinners at fancy restaurants, no more weekend trips, no more exclusive gym memberships. Chloe no longer had anything to offer except her problems, and her friends were not interested in hearing them. Her social circle shrank to practically no one. She spent weekends at her parents' house watching television, eating what they cooked, avoiding the pitying looks they gave her when they thought she was not watching. A year after the divorce, Chloe started calling me again. The first calls were out of anger. "How could you do this to me? You destroyed my life. You are a coward." The next ones were negotiating. "We can fix this. I am willing to change. Give me another chance." The last ones were pleading. "Please, Ethan, I need you. I cannot do this alone." I did not answer any of them. 2 years after the divorce, I was promoted to regional director. My area of responsibility now included operations across the southern United States. My salary had quadrupled since I left Chicago. I had company stock, an annual bonus, premium health insurance, and a retirement account that grew every month. Sarah and I moved together into a house in the Austin suburbs. Nothing flashy. 3 bedrooms with a backyard, perfect for us and the dog we adopted from the local shelter. Our relationship remained balanced. She paid half the mortgage, half the utilities, half of everything. When we dined out, we alternated who paid. When we traveled, each covered their own expenses. It was a real partnership, not a burden. One day in November, while walking through the park near our house, I asked her if she wanted to marry me. She said yes. The news eventually reached Chicago. My sister told me that Chloe found out through social media from a mutual friend. That week, the calls intensified. 127 missed calls in 7 days. Voicemails ranging from fury to weeping. Text messages alternating between insults and declarations of love. You cannot marry someone else. You still love me. I know you love me. That woman does not know you like I do. She does not know what you like. Please, Ethan, give me a chance to show you I have changed. I did not reply to any of them. 3 years after the divorce, Chloe made her most desperate move. She showed up in Austin. Somehow, she found out my address. My sister told me later that Chloe had contacted her, pretending to want to send me a birthday gift. My sister, who knew the whole story, gave her no information, but apparently, Chloe found other ways, probably public property records, or maybe she tracked my social media through accounts of friends who had not blocked her. One Saturday afternoon in October, while Sarah and I were working in the yard getting it ready for winter, a yellow taxi pulled up in front of our house. The driver got out first, pulled a small suitcase out of the trunk, and then opened the back door. Chloe got out of the car. She looked different from how I remembered her, thinner, but not in a healthy way. Tired, with worry lines around her eyes that she did not have before. Her hair, which she always kept perfect, was now pulled back carelessly. She was wearing clothes I recognized from years ago, a dress I had bought her for our 5th anniversary, probably because she could not afford new ones. Ethan, she said, walking toward us with unsteady steps. We need to talk. Sarah dropped the shovel she was using and tensed up beside me. I had told her everything about my ex-wife, including the telephone harassment of the last few years, the 100 or so calls that came every month from different numbers. There is nothing to talk about, I replied without moving from where I stood. Please, I traveled for hours to get here. I took 2 flights. I spent the last savings I had. Just give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes after 8 years together. Do I not deserve that? You should have called before coming. You do not answer my calls, she yelled, and I saw tears starting to form in her eyes. I have been trying to contact you for 3 years. 3 years, Ethan. Do you know what that is like? Waking up every day knowing that the person you loved most wants nothing to do with you. Sarah took a step forward, positioning herself slightly in front of me. I think you should leave. You are not welcome here. Chloe looked her up and down with that contempt I knew so well. And who are you to tell me that? This is a conversation between my husband and me. Ex-husband, Sarah corrected without getting upset. And I am his fiancée, which means this is also my house, and you are trespassing on our property. Fiancé. Chloe let out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. After only 2 years you are already going to marry this person? 3 years, I corrected. It has been 3 years since the divorce, and yes, I am going to marry her. You cannot. We had something special. Special, I repeated. 8 years of you telling me that without you I was nothing. That was special to you. Chloe paused, searching for words. I did not mean it. It was just the way we talked. No, it was the way you treated me. And now you can see the results. What results? I pointed around. This house, this job, this woman who truly loves me, this life I built without you. It turns out I am something without you. In fact, I am much more. Chloe started crying openly. But I need you, she said between sobs. I cannot do this alone. Everything fell apart when you left. I know, but that is not my problem. Do you not feel anything? After everything we lived together. I took a moment before answering. I feel gratitude. Thanks to you, I learned to recognize my own value. I learned that I deserve someone who treats me as an equal, not an inferior. I learned that people who truly love you do not systematically tear you down for years. I loved you. No, you needed me. It is different. Sarah took my hand, a silent gesture of support. Chloe, I finally said, I want you to leave. Do not contact me again. Do not call. Do not write. Do not show up here. If you do, I will file for a restraining order. You cannot do this to me. I already did it 3 years ago. Now I am living the consequences, which happen to be pretty good. You are also living yours. That is how choices work. I called a taxi from my cell phone and waited with Sarah until the car arrived. Chloe kept crying, trying to find words that would change the situation. She did not find them. When the taxi left, Sarah hugged me. Are you okay? She asked. I am better than okay, I answered. I am free. It has been 6 months since that day. I married Sarah in a small ceremony in the backyard of our house. My family came from Chicago, her parents from Puerto Rico, and a handful of close friends. Nothing flashy, everything meaningful. My life now is exactly what I always imagined, but that Chloe made me believe I did not deserve. I have a job that fulfills me professionally, a wife who respects and values me, a house that is a home and not just a place where I receive criticism. And Chloe, well, she keeps calling. Every month, without fail, a call comes in from a new number. Sometimes it is in the early hours of the morning, sometimes on a weekend. I always let it go to voicemail. The messages vary. Some are angry, others sad, most are pleading. Ethan, please, it has been years. Can you not forgive me? I made mistakes, I know, but I deserve another chance. No one loves me like you loved me. No one takes care of me like you took care of me. Those last sentences are particularly ironic. She spent 8 years convincing me that I was worthless, and now she spends every month reminding me how much I was worth. The difference is that now I know it too. I do not hold a grudge against Chloe. Holding a grudge requires energy that I prefer to use on other things. I simply see her as a lesson learned, a closed chapter, a person who was once part of my story, but who no longer has a place in my present. Sometimes, when I hear my phone vibrate with an unknown number, I allow myself a small moment of satisfaction, not from seeing her in distress, but from knowing that I proved what I always knew, but that I had been made to doubt. Without her, I am not just something. Without her, I am everything I could ever be. And that is the best answer I could have given to 8 years of, without me, you are nothing. Comment. I want to take a moment to thank all of you for being part of our community and sharing this space with me today. Hearing about journeys like this always reminds me how important it is to recognize our own inherent value. No one should ever have to convince their partner that they are worthy of respect and basic kindness. True love is about building each other up, not tearing each other down to create a false sense of control. Setting healthy boundaries is never an act of selfishness, but a necessary step for your own peace and mental healing. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to walk away from a toxic environment and start over. I hope this conversation encourages you to look closely at the relationships in your own life. Please remember to surround yourself with people who celebrate your growth and treat you as a true equal. Choosing your own peace is the greatest responsibility you have to yourself. I would love to read your thoughts in the comments below because your insights always make this channel a better place. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.